Hi everyone, welcome to Vérité ou Conséquences.com, a website dedicated to spreading crucial information about truth, freedom, objective morality, and natural law. Today, my guest is Brian Cirillo. Hello, my friend.
Hello. Thanks, Dom. Thanks a lot for having me. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Pleasure is mutual, man. So, Brian, I'm going to give you a little bio. First, you're not related to Bobby Cirillo that I've interviewed maybe a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Not closely related, at least, from Anonymous Addiction. Another great guy in the community. I had a lot of fun to interview him. So you live in upstate New York, not so far from me, maybe a 5-hour drive.
Yep.
You're a punk rock music enthusiast and aficionado like myself.
Right.
And that's maybe how we connected a little from the Mark Passio Natural Law Facebook page. We're gonna get a little bit later on that. Um, so your new show, I'm here to promote it, man. I've watched the first episode, who premiered this week on Thursday, January 28th. It's called The Occulted by Brian Cirillo,
Yep.
and it's on your channel ACRN, your channel on YouTube, and also I saw you're on Library Odyssey also. So ACRN stands for Amazing Conspiracy Realist Network. So
Right.
there's going to be a lot of discussion and a lot of about the conspiracies and everything. So we're going to touch on also on that. You're going to do a lot of book reviews, outlining some of the most important knowledge ever published within the alternative research community. You're going to talk a lot about these researchers that we all love in the truth community, at least, like David Icke, Michael Sarion, Mark Passio, Jordan Maxwell, Manly P. Hall, Lloyd Pye, and all these great researchers um, and presenters. You're also, I think you said in your first episode that you're in the process of writing a book on dark eugenicists. So
Yes.
that also, I'm excited to see when you're gonna give birth to that book. And also you're involved, I think, in a Facebook page called the Light Occult Tarot Reading.
That's right.
So we're gonna talk a bit about tarot because I never explained really to my audience why did I choose these two cards to in my logo. So it's gonna be fun to maybe discuss with someone who knows a little about tarot, because I don't really know much, but
Okay.
from what I know, these cards really represent my work and where it sits in the universe, I guess.
Right.
So really excited for this interview. So yeah, so you admitted being late maybe in the process of reading books, and that may have delayed your activation to speak publicly and do the great work. But I guess there's no better time than now to activate ourselves and to speak truth. So I'm happy to see you, and happy to promote your website. I'm gonna put a link in the description below. That's for sure. So
Thank you. Yeah.
first question, right off the bat. Which book would you bring? Classic question on a desert island for the rest of your life, and why?
Well, yeah, I saw this is a tough question because it's like I'd love to bring my favorite book like of all time, which I can't even think of what that would be. I mean, I thought of so many, you know, I think the most practical answer to that question is like you'd want to bring something that can help you survive on a desert. Like if you were on a desert island, you want to have something that's going to, you know, show you how to survive on a desert island and what you need to do to grow your own food or whatever it is you know um so I think hopefully it'd be some type of survival book and I would be practical about it. But I mean to answer the question, and like I know the spirit of the question is more like about which books do you really love, and that's a really tough answer. I think that you know, when it comes to the conspiracy stuff, if I was in a situation like that, I don't know if I would bring like a whole conspiracy outline of the New World Order type book on a desert island if I'm by myself. I think I would stick with something more like in the Ayn Rand school of thinking, like The Virtue of Selfishness, probably. Just because my own self-interest would be pretty important, you know, at that time, because there's obviously no one else around. So that would be a pretty cool one, I think. And then like something like this what is it? I think it's, I don't want to get the number wrong, but it's like the 6 or the 7 pillars of self-esteem by Nathaniel Branden. I don't know if you ever read that one, but he was like a student of Ayn Rand's, I guess. And so he was really just someone who, libertarian guy, not really a full-blown anarchist, but he was a libertarian guy. And he was just really into the school of thinking that, you know, revolved around individual freedom and just true self-esteem, and which means being more conscious in your everyday life and, you know, towards the people around you and towards objective truth, you know, being more conscious of that there is an objective truth and that like it's not all about what your perceptions are, because, you know, I'm Pisces, as you can see. I got the Pisces thing in the background on my end, and that's just, you know, that's a sign that can be really creative and stuff, but the downside of it is like Pisces gets so lost in our imagination that it's like sometimes it's hard to like stay grounded. So yeah, I mean, that's why I think something that's like more fictional and like fantasy driven at that point, and I think I would probably end up going for that. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Sure,
But
sure,
yeah,
sure. I'm a Cancer, so I'm a water sign too, so I can relate on some.
yeah,
You know, for me, for example, if I would go really for the practical, probably I would take the biggest book in my bookshelf, so I can maybe burn the paper with the biggest, the
yeah,
largest amount of paper. So the book with the best intrinsic value for me, just for survival, I would probably take the one with the pages not too glossy, you know, so I can burn it. But
take one of those
personally,
Merriam-Webster dictionaries, those
yeah,
giant ones, and just burn it. You know, like
exactly,
I thought you were
exactly.
talking
So
about that the other day. The
I can
definitions
survive,
are
maybe
wrong.
I can start a fire for the first maybe 2 weeks, get it going. No, but personally, my book, I just finished rereading it, would be The Stellar Man by John Baines. Uh,
Okay.
Classic book, also about the occult, about the hermetic principles, and how to be that, you know, that uber man that Nietzsche talk about, being that stellar man, you know, as close to God as possible, you know, getting there, being on the path. So that incredible book.
Right.
So yeah, most of your work will be, I guess, focused on conspiracy theories, or what you call conspiracy realism, which I really like.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, I wrote this, I read this quote on Facebook today. Said conspiracy theorist is nothing more than a derogatory title used to dismiss a critical thinker. And that's pretty much it, you know.
That's all it ever was, you
And
know. And
yeah, go on.
oh, sorry. Obviously the fact of that term is it was only a term that was coined by the mainstream media after the JFK assassinations and stuff like that, and they were just trying to get anyone who was questioning the official version of events with that situation to be labeled a conspiracy theorist. And the worst part about it, I mean, I think the thing that shows us that, you know, it's really the public and the collective that are they're just as much, even more so, enslavers than the dark Illuminati themselves, is the public a lot of the times for not seeing through that immediately. I mean, it was the early 60s. There should have been, like, you know, rock and roll was starting to get popular. There should have been some guy out there, some rocker type guy out there who listens to Elvis, who's just like, fuck this, you know, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. I'm questioning authority. What really happened, you know? And I just, you know, it just shows you, you know, that even back then, they must have been really working towards the satanic epi-eugenics agenda of stamping rebellion out of human thinking, because if people were willing to just go along with that, it's so obvious that they were just trying to shut people up that were questioning it. And it's just like, it couldn't have been more obvious. You know, it's like a bully at school who's trying to who just, beat up some kid, and then he's trying to hide it. You know, he's trying to put the kid under the table, make sure no one sees him. And it's just, whenever someone's lying, it's just, they're such bad liars, and they try, it's almost so obvious. And it's so, and it's just like, I think the public just want to believe what they want to believe, and they just, they're just glued to that mainstream media, and it just makes them feel good to just, go along with that, and they feel like they fit in with everyone else, and they're not rocking the boat, and it's just, they're more comfortable that way. And that's probably why things like that, whole thing of labeling people conspiracy theorists who are questioning things and actually coming up with facts, unpleasant facts about corruption, is what it really is. You're finding unpleasant facts about corruption, and you're doing the shadow work for the collective consciousness, by drudging up that shadow material about, that's why conspiracy work is spiritual work, because it is a form of shadow work, but it's something that is, when you're in that mode, you're kind of drudging up the larger shadow, the macrocosmic shadow. So yeah, I think I don't, that's my take on it.
What they probably did with JFK is that they probably were the CIA and all these introduced and the LSD to the hippie people, so that and pot, so that they are too busy, being on drugs and not worry about these events. And
Right.
maybe also there's a lot of theories, but there's how they push the Beatles also, and all this music and all these movement they introduced, what they did to the hippie movement, so that it become less and less anti-war, or less and less powerful in just being into drugs. But and also one thing I saw today, and I was horrified, and I shared on my Facebook page, is that Biden issued a domestic terror alert warning of objection to governmental authority. So it was by the DHS, which is the Department of Homeland Securities. So basically what it says is that now, if you're talking about conspiracy theories, you're a terrorist. So it's really a tough era, I guess, to value your freedom and to talk about these conspiracy theories, because now there's a risk. So how will you deal with this risk of speaking publicly about these touchy or topics, with your job, family, relatives? It's gonna be risky now, to be labeled as a terrorist. Yeah. And FBI can knock on your door right now. So we're saluting the FBI if they're watching. Shout out.
Yeah. For some reason, maybe I'm naive or something like that. I don't know how old you are, but I mean, I'm only just turning 30 this year. So I'm pretty naive. I guess I could be pretty naive about it, but I feel optimistic in terms of, I'm just focusing on what I'm doing. So it's just like, I don't have time for their shit. I don't have time for them to be playing these games. I mean, I have information to get out there and truth to get out there. So, I don't even think that it's, and I could be wrong, but I think that it's all fear. It's all meant to just, make people who are on the, thinking about, getting their voice out and going public. It's to stop them. It's to it's all meant to just stop them from starting to go public, because they'll think like, oh, well, what are the people around me going to say? Are they going to buy into the hype of, well, people around me, my friends and family, they've known for such a long time, and I tell them what's going to happen in the future. Like, I'll go like, one day they're going to put me in a cage. One day they're going to put me in a concentration camp. Are you going to support that? Like, no, man, I'll back you up if that happens. I just don't buy into all the stuff that you say. So I'll back you up. And so I know that there are people in my life, luckily, who, even though they have their own beliefs and their own, like, you could argue mind control programs, and, they might take a page from the mainstream, they might take a page from the alternative, and then it's becomes a solipsistic thing of, well, we don't really know, we'll never know. So, but at the same time, the people in my life, I think they know that I'm not a terrorist, and I think that basic common sense, or not common sense, but natural law will tell you that it has the right to speak, they have the right to use their voice, and there's nothing terroristic about that, as long as you're not like threatening to go do something violent against somebody. Then it's like you're not, the point is they can say that you're a terrorist, but you're really in objective reality you're obviously not. So it's like I'm not worried about it, and I'm thinking that what I do think to be proactive that the truth community should do is go back to the way it was in the 90s, where it was just like they didn't have the internet in the kind of prominence we have it today. It has been a great tool for us at this point, but if it gets to the point where we all get shut down, we should prepare for that in terms of like learning more about non-distributed networks, on the internet. And also, I'm old fashioned, so it's like, and you were into the punk rock DIY thing, so that you could always put your stuff out on a DVD and just sell it and send it to people. I want to kind of, on my website, I want to try to get something going where, and it's like, it's hard because I don't want to collect people's private information, but it's all based on their consent, obviously. But I would want to get a mailing list going, like a really long like mailing list for people. And it's just like, if they shut everything down, you could record your episodes of your show on like a CD or a DVD or a flash drive, and just that'll be your merch. So it's just like we won't be websites anymore. Maybe we'll just become mail order things. And then if they try to stop the mail, then I guess at that point I would say, like, let's just start a breakaway civilization, at that point of some sort. But it depends on how it goes. I think it's all because, I think that at one level, the dark occultists want us to continue to do the great work just so they could watch us and see what direction we're going in, so that, years later down the road, they'll have a way to manipulate us and make us look like, assholes. But I think the closer and closer you get to the truth, the closer and closer you get to, because for me, it was a stepwise progression. I went from, obviously David Icke was a gateway for me in this, but then, when you get into David Icke, you only read his books, you can still get like sucked back into like the disclosure movement and like some of the new age bullshit too, and then kind of conflate it all in your head. And, but I had a stepwise progression of like it was like when I was a kid, I looked up to Greg Graffin from Bad Religion, like you mentioned. But, now I have different views on the guy. I mean, I think, but I could get into that. But so Greg Graffin trying to kind of got me going on like showing me how to think. And then when I got into, people like David Icke, Michael Tsarian, that was like a next level. But then I'm thinking, why doesn't Greg Graffin ever look into these guys' work? I mean, and then I started thinking, these punk bands, do they know David Icke? Are they familiar with what's going on? Is this a part of the revolution that we're having? And the answer to that is no, they were not familiar with it. They are going for a false revolution. But at the same time, I digress. I mean, I had a stepwise progression to get to Mark Passio. It took me like 15 years of research and getting caught down other cul-de-sacs and rabbit holes to finally get to someone like Mark Passio. Even I got into with Michael Tsarian stuff on shadow work. And then there's the stuff with Ayn Rand about individualism. I got into that whole thing. And then I was introduced to Mark Passio's work, and that tied up all the loose ends because, Michael Tsarian is a bit of I have nothing against the guy, and it's out of every status in the world, he's the one that I respect the most. But I mean, he's still, he dabbles with that idea of there being like a divine or a benign monarchy is what he calls it. But that's really just the inner, what he's trying to convey, I think, is the inner monarchy. I think Mark Passio nails it on the head better than that, when he talks about the inner monarchy and inner monarchy leading to external anarchy. So, but yeah, I think that they're just trying to just, they're attacking the surface level conspiracy movement through QAnon and Trump, but those guys are not like, to make another analogy with punk, I mean, those guys are like the pop punk and we're like the hardcore punk. So it's like, they're like, you could say that punk is new wave, but then there's still going to be the hardcore scene underneath all that. So I think that we still got some time. And I think that one of the reasons why I didn't act and put stuff out there is because, just seeing the way the censorship had increased over the past 4 years, I got kind of scared, and I was like, I don't know, if I am going to do something, what should it be? Should it just be a book? Should I put my name out there? And then of course, but Mark is a great coach. If you listen to his show, it's like you're thinking maybe I shouldn't put my name out there. And then he's just like, use your real fucking name, and it's just like, okay,
Right.
you know what, this makes sense, and so I think that when you do speak the truth, you are protected. Like, you're protected spiritually from those forces. So I'm not too worried about it, but I do think things are going to get heated. So let's prepare. Let's have backups for our data, and let's, try to get some hard copy stuff out there for people. That's what I think.
That's right. I have a group, a friend, great people. Also, John Whitehogan, Natural Freedom League, Will Keller, Will Tell Truth, and they are doing what they call, detachment activism. So they go on the street with their signs, and they have a booth on the street, and they talk to people, and also they try to bring them to these concepts, to natural law, and by using the Socratic method of asking questions and see where they are at, and by not just by using the internet, of course. So you gotta be also skilled in one-on-one situation, or and group situation, to small group situation, to make sure that you have all the tools set in your box, so that whenever happen, you're still gonna be able to express, and bring more people into researching for themselves. So I really like also. So you talk about punk and Dr. Greg, which I really like. It was still Bad Religion is still a classic, but yeah. I don't know if you read his book Anarchy Evolution, but that was kind of a bummer also for me. This book, there are some good points where he said that, well, where he attacks the Darwinian theory of
Oh, he
evolution,
does. I didn't even realize he did that. That's great. Okay.
and by saying exactly that, the evolution of human, it's not really like survival of the fittest, but it's kind of a anarchy, anarchistic, means that there's a natural order of things, but it's not the human order of things, survival of the fittest. But
Right.
talking about fake ass punks, I'm gonna recommend all the viewers who are into punk rock music to watch the presentation by Brandon Martin called Fake Ass Punks and What It Means to Be a True Rebel, because that's one of the video also that set me on the path. Me too, I started watching Mark Passio, who brought me to all these. For example, the book I mentioned, The Stellar Man, he recommends so much stuff, and his Art 2.0 is like there's like 95,000 files or something. So there's a lot of stuff that he recommends, and it brought me to this, and I realized that how fake ass the punk community was. I knew it, by going to all these shows and seeing a lot of people, playing dress up, or just being, fake ass punks or weekend punks, making mohawks just, for the show, and then after, like, being not talking about punk rock, or not being real anarchists. And one of the things that we connected is you commented my T-shirt when I was wearing my Dropkick Murphy T-shirt, and you were right, by saying that they are statists. They supported over the years, they are supported workers union, but it kind of derived to supporting in 2016 they supported presidential candidate Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico, was running for the Libertarian Party, and we're going to talk about maybe a Libertarian Party, because, and also in 2020, Dropkick Murphys, they openly supported Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland, a place where one of the most terrible state in the U.S., was running
Yeah.
for presidential candidate for the Democrats. So they were supporting openly the Democratic Party. So uh, they are statists, but still,
Yeah.
we can still, if you are able to differentiate their music from their political views, that's where I can still say that I like
Yeah.
their music, even though they are really far into statism, because statism, what it is actually voting for a party that's gonna enforce your line of thought into another group of people who vote for the other party. So
Yeah.
that's slavery. That's
Right.
that's control. So that's a very wrong way of thinking. Yeah, a lot of punk rock groups are like that, and they promote monarchism. What's your stand on the punk rock community in general, and all these bands who are not really, maybe they are singing anti-government, for example, also anti-flag. You're gonna
Anti-flag, I was just gonna say,
die
yep.
for the government. So how do you what's your
Underground
stand?
Network, yeah,
What's your
yeah.
stand on the punk rock community and all these fake ass punks?
I have. I'll be honest with you. Luckily, when I started, in the second part of my awakening, because I had an awakening in 2008 and 2009. That's when I started to understand that there was a global conspiracy and the kind of alien and reptilian connection with everything. But it wasn't until 2016 when the pedogate thing happened and all these idiots, I was just looking to see where everyone was at. And so when those WikiLeaks revelations came out, and I looked up the Twitter page to anti-flag or Green Day or something like that, and I saw what they were saying, my heart sank. Like, I mean, I was just shattered in like a billion pieces to see that, because I always was one of my dreams before that was to start a punk rock festival that also featured conspiracy researchers. And, I thought we were all anti-establishment and we were all going to just take this thing down like within this lifetime, and I realized, and in 2016, I did a crash course for myself in educating myself on what the, like, first, without just looking at punk, what is the left actually, the right is bad too, but the left is, it's just all it is cultural Marxism. It's just it's communism, dressed up in another disguise. It's statism dressed up as revolution. And so there's people who I talk to in the punk scene who they can't even differentiate in their minds, like, revolutionary thinking is being a socialist. Like, there's no differentiation for them. And so I don't even think it's minarchism that we see in the punk rock scene. It's full-blown statism, it's full-blown socialism, and it's just, and so, like, my thing is, I'm anti-racist, I'm anti-sexist, I'm anti-homophobic, and I think that when I started to see bands were saying that, I was right on. But then it's just like, okay, so there's those issues, and then there's also human trafficking, and then there's also dialectical manipulations and false flags. Where does the scene stand on that? Where do they stand on that? They're parroting CNN when it comes to that. They might as well be pundits on CNN, because they're all just like, conspiracy theories, that's bad, that's hateful, that's and then conflating every conspiracy thinker with neo-Nazis who are not related to us, who are also under a form of mind control, where they scapegoat the Jews and then don't look into any other aspect of any dark occult conspiracy. I mean, so it's like they just have it so wrong, and it's based on this like social justice narrative that, I mean, I was indoctrinated into growing up, because I'm a millennial and I went to public school, and I just, when it becomes too easy to be a rebel, when it's like you're not getting any resistance and everybody around you thinks the same way, and like you're all united, I was really stoked on that at first, but then once I started to do my conspiracy homework and research things, that's when I started to learn about what collectivism is, and that's when I remembered that the reason why I was drawn to punk rock in the first place, like 100 years ago, back in 2001, I was drawn to punk rock, and I didn't want to listen to hip hop or pop music, or what was trendy at the time, which was like Eminem and Limp Bizkit and shit like that. So I just thought, I'm going to be an individual and I'm going to listen to this music that other people aren't listening to, that's more underground. And so I was drawn to punk because I thought it was an individualistic thing. And then all these years later, I realized that it was being used as a tool to bring about the Brave New World and global government. Because, you go to shows like, I saw Anti-Flag and Bad Religion right before Trump got in, and they were pretty much saying we need to break down all the borders and all the boundaries, and everyone needs to just come together and unite. And so, and everyone's screaming and cheering along. But then as an older person, I was 26, 27, and I was just like, whoa, like wait a minute, like hold on a second here, like. I realized what that unity shit was really about, and it's like on one level, unity is good, but when it comes to what they were saying is that, implying that we need a global government to be united. And a lot of these bands, they put so much trust into the UN. They put so much trust into these organizations that are funded by, like the Rockefellers and things like that. And they don't even care where the funding comes from. They love, the logo, Extinction Rebellion. Like it seems so cool and chic, and, it's just so fake. It's just as fake as like the WWE. It's like, and I'm not saying the WWE is about rebellion. I don't want to confuse people. I'm just saying that it's that much of a show. It's like, I just came up with a term for like what punk had become, or what it had been, depending on the band you're talking about. And when you're talking about the Founders or Discharge, that doesn't apply. But like Dropkick Murphys or Anti-Flag or one of these epitaph bands, it's like and I think that the human spirit does come out in their music. I think that when you hear those riffs and when you hear the speed of the music and even some of the lyrics, that's coming from a deep place within their souls that they're not even fully conscious of, I think. But then it's just like when it comes to the talking points and the interviews and the kind of shit that they say, the banter in between songs at shows, it's totally controlled. And I was in a band for a while too. I was in a horror punk band, and even at the local level, there were I could just sense that there were dark occultists in the community who, like, they would talk to other members of my band, and they would ask them about what I'm doing, and they would be like, and like my band members at the time were such conformists. They were just scared conformists. They knew that there were gangs, and like we have, like, I'm in New York, so it's like the DMS crew is like, you can't, if you want to book your own show, you can't do it because it's not your turf. You got to go through the DMS. And so through those punk gangs, that is where I think the dark occult gets their hands into the scene. And you can't sing about certain things. I mean, you can't. It's just like it just felt like total control. I mean, we were going to play with the US Bombs. I don't know if you listen to the US Bombs, but they are one of the few bands out there that's ever spoken about false flags or the Dark New World Order and stuff. And I was so stoked to play with them. We were going to open for them in Total Chaos. And that's when I was like, all right, now I could get my idea out about this music festival and talk to these guys about it. But, the show got canceled because the person that was running the show happened to be transgender, and they dug up and there's nothing I have against transgender people. It's just this particular individual dug up a quote from Dwayne Peters of the US Bombs. It was like 10 years ago on Twitter. And he said something that I agree with. He said, I believe in freedom, rights, and two genders. I believe the two genders exist. And for that statement, they canceled the show, and everybody in my band and everyone that was like a fan of our band was just like, they weren't saying fuck the guy and fuck them for censoring the US Bombs. They were saying, oh, fuck Dwayne Peters, for saying all that racist shit, So it was like I had no voice. I couldn't express how I felt. Like, I was just so, again, heartbroken that like one of my favorite bands of all time that was also like-minded in some ways we weren't allowed to play with them, and that's when I kind of quit. I quit the band that I was in at the time. I was disillusioned with the scene completely, and it was a shame because it was finally a time when I was getting access to shows, and I was getting my band was getting more popular and well known, and we were getting somewhere. But we weren't singing about natural law. We weren't singing about anything real. I mean, the guys in my band wanted to make it cheesy, make it all about horror punk, and singing about silly things related to the horror genre. And I could not bring us to that more adult level of like, let's sing about the occult. I'm an occult researcher. I do tarot cards. I'm the lead singer of a horror punk band. Can't we make this into something cool? And they just weren't about it. And so, yeah, I think overall, I agree with you that you could still like the bands that because I mean, these bands are close to my heart because I grew up listening to them, and I wouldn't when I turn on music, any type of music, I'm going to turn on the stuff that I like to hear, it's like, so, but it's a shame because the music is great. I'm a big fan of the band RKL, Rich Kids on LSD. I don't know if you ever listened to them before,
Yeah,
but
that's
musically,
old
I
stuff.
think
Yeah.
those guys are brilliant. And it's just so my goal is to I think a lot of the stuff that's come out in punk is brilliant. I mean, I know that a lot of people are not fans of pop punk and stuff and things like that. But I mean, I like it all. Music, when it comes to music, I like it. Hardcore punk has been lyrically, I think, the best out of all the different subgenres. But even the newer punk rap stuff that's coming out, I like. And I like pop punk, and I like punk rock and roll that's like Springsteen influenced, the Bouncing Souls or whatever. And so another project that I'm looking to do down the road is make some of this type of music, but then put truth lyrics, de-occulted lyrics, in this music. And I think it would be, that would be and I think that the dark occult are afraid of the force of art and the force of music, especially, they wouldn't want to see, if you hear a great song by a band like Dropkick Murphys and those lyrics end up being about natural law, I mean, that's going to be scary for a dark occultist. That's not what they want to be put out there because the music is so good. It makes people feel good. It gets into your right brain, but then also if there's some truth to it, that'll be very powerful. And I don't think they want that. And I just think that a lot of these guys in these bands they're just having a ball. They're just having so much fun being in the band and doing what they love to do for a living that they don't really, and it kind of disrupts their care because they become self-centered or they're just focused on the band and that community that surrounds the band. They don't really give a fuck about the truth or what's really happening. And so, and of course there's drugs involved, there's people getting wasted every night, doing coke. And so they're just, living the sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle. And they're not reading books. They're not looking at the alternative media and where it's going and, checking out people like Mark Passio and people like Kathy O'Brien who have actually been in the presence of the dark occult. They, the punk bands that I grew up listening to, they're so far away from that it's just really sad. I do also want to mention the band Agnostic Front because they have some stuff that's against the New World Order where they'll say this New World Order is not for me. The social system is degrading to my spirit and all that stuff. But then, of course, the band is Agnostic Front, and the whole point of the band, if you've seen that interview, I don't know, there's an interview from back in the 80s where they go, yeah, this is all about being in doubt of the absolute truth. That's what we're about, because you'll never get to the absolute truth. So it's just very, to sum it all up in one word, what I think is of the punk rock scene, extremely disappointed. But it's just my heroes in the punk scene, I may have to rip their poster off the wall at times. I may have to, they're not, I see them for the losers that a lot of them are now. But my heroes in the truth community are way, they're so much more inspiring than any of those bands, even a lot of the time. And so I'm thankful for them, and I'm thankful that I chose the right path in my life, because I could have easily just realized that I would fit in and with the scene better, and I would be able to keep my girlfriend and keep my band if I just went along with the program. But I could not do that. Now that now once the apocalypse happened and pedophilia, and it was known that and proven undeniably that, our leaders are, blood drinking pedophile Satanists. That's the information that I was wanting to come out for so long, that I thought even the feminist movement, I thought, I was so naive. I thought the feminists, they must know all about Kathy O'Brien. They must know all about, Bryce Taylor and people like that. And everyone is just so completely clueless. And so, yeah, I'm extremely disappointed and saddened by the state of art and culture, but it's just for entertainment now. And for me personally, I know that I have a responsibility to create art that is conscious. So I am going to get to that at some point in my life. Not to keep rambling on, I have a few songs written that are conscious, but then even me, I'm so egoically attached to a lot of the ideals, or the overall way of being that is punk, that some of my songs are just about heartbreak and depression and stuff like that. And so, it's part of the human spirit, it's part of the expression. But so even me, I get into that mode sometimes where I don't feel like writing a song that's truth based, and I'll write something that's a little bit more like, down on my luck type of social distortion song. But I do want to incorporate the truth into my music, but I think podcasting is a better way to get more information out there anyway. So
yeah, me too. I feel you exactly the same, because I feel exactly the same, about these punk bands. I'm 41, and I grew up like with the 90s, all these 90s punk bands. And it, one of the biggest bummer for me was like Bad Religion, when they threw out this Christmas album. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, Bad Religion and all these Christmas songs, I couldn't believe it. I watched it, and I felt, I cried. I
yeah,
cried really, because it was like my whole universe was. And all these bands after the years, like Rancid also, which I respect a lot, but they also support the troops. There's a lot of all these
yeah,
punk bands, they support the troops, or they are a lot into religion. All these which binds you back, that doesn't bring the people on the path to truth. But yeah, you said it. It's for now.
and
It's
communism as well. It's like they are
yeah, a
so
lot, a lot.
about that. It's like the red stars everywhere, and I
Yeah,
see more. I think the biggest religion in punk rock, right? From right off the beginning, is communism and socialism. They cannot break themselves away from that. I don't know what that is. They can't break away from that. It's like so sad to see. But yeah, I do know what you mean. I mean, in terms of Bad Religion making a Christmas album, it was pretty crappy too. I heard it. It was not good. So
I was why they don't
right,
they have like they have this already they already have released like the 20 albums. Like, why do you don't need that? Why?
yeah,
And and yeah, and also all these, there's a lot of bands that are into you said agnostic from into atheism, so there's no future or nihilism,
yep,
no, we're just flesh. There's nothing bigger than us. There's no bigger force in the universe. So why bother? There's no future, and let's just get drunk and stoned, and you know and you kind of get
stop
sucked
caring.
into
Yeah,
that, because I was into that also, and
yep,
I had a lot of girlfriend who were into that. Let's get drunk. There's no future, and all this shit, and I was wrong, but at a certain point I was able to get out of it and keep that music only for entertainment purposes,
right
because
on.
it's good vibe, but now I can. But the problem is that most people in the community, they cannot make that difference. They cannot
Yeah,
connect the dots, that or make make differentiate what's the bad apple from the rotten apple. So
right.
that's where it can get really dangerous for the community to follow these messages. And no future, don't there's no hope. So let's get drunk, because I'm a huge fan of NoFX, but you know they
Me
promote
too.
you know drug abuse and you know it's not you know it's not good. It's not
Yeah,
respect
NoFX
for
pretty
you
much promotes drug abuse, nihilism, not caring. It's all about not caring. Even they even get up on stage like, "We don't care. Look at how bad we are. We don't even care." And they are good. That's what's crazy about it. They actually are not
yeah
bad musicians, but they always go, "We don't care," you know.
yeah.
So sorry to interrupt.
No problem. And now I'm also a huge fan of the newcomer, you know, interrupters. But I got kicked out of the Facebook fan page this week because
Really,
they put a picture of them with Fallon, with the night
Jimmy
show,
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon, and I said, do
Yeah.
you know that this guy is probably an alleged pedophile? So there's no real no reason to be proud to be taken a take a picture with an alleged pedophile. So I got kicked out of the Facebook group. But actually, that's one of the thing, you know, conspiracy theorists or conspiracy realism. It's about connecting the dots and recognizing these patterns. You know, it's not these patterns over 10 years, over millenniums, you know, over
Millions, yeah.
thousands and thousands of years. So a lot of people they focus, okay, mask, vaccine, but you don't see the global picture and connect all the dots. And that's one of
Yeah.
the thing I'm thankful to Mark Passio is that he brought me all these missing pieces of the puzzle, so I was able to see clearly the big picture and connect the dots when new stuff arrives, you know. So now
You don't fall
I'm
for it anymore.
critical. Yeah, no, maybe not, but I still love, you know, and enjoy the music and the vibe. But yeah, the punk scene is you know it's to be taken with a grain of salt, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And then it's like I was actually gonna read off a quote from a Dropkick Murphy's lyric that I do like, and it's funny because it's like it almost sounds like something that you'd hear on Infowars, like the lyric that I'm gonna say. I forget the name of the song. I should have remembered the name, but it was from their album from like 2001, which is "Sing Loud, Sing Proud."
Okay,
He says in one
I'll
line
try to
he goes,
recognize it.
the morals of this nation's youth have all gone astray, led by tolerance, indifference, and this kind and gentler way that's corrupted and destroyed so many of our boys and girls. Oh Lord, I start to wonder, will it ever come around? Like, like that's very libertarian of them. It's very like traditionalist in like a good sense, and they are talking about morals not being relative there. So there are nuggets of lyrics, especially with Bad Religion. There's nuggets of like one of the great lyrics that they have is when all soldiers lay their weapons down, when all kings relinquish their crowns, then there will be sorrow no more. That's talking.
Father, can you hear me? How have I let you down? I curse the day that I was born, and all the sorrow in this world.
No more. That's
Sorrow,
talking about non-compliance, with order following and stuff like that. It's just I don't know where the disconnect is between what they're saying in the lyrics and then the things that they support. It's just clueless bleeding heart liberalism where they're so empathetic and they're such good-hearted people, but then they don't know where to look for the right information, but they are convinced that they are informed and that they need to, because I used to be one of them. I used to be someone who's just like, I'm going to let the whole world know that like spirituality is a lie and that you only got this one life to live and all that stuff. And so it's it's definitely a thing, with that, you could take, lyrics here and there from bands and apply them to natural law and truth. But you can't project because what I did was project my awakening onto these bands, like, because at a certain point I believed everyone was really waking up, and that's where you need Mark Passio's work, or at least you need some type of anti-solipsistic perspective, because even in the truth movement you can fall into, well, I don't want to get all egotistical and think that I know something, because I know that I don't, all I know is that I don't know, right? But I think the most powerful thing in Mark's work is the idea that, and it's not Mark's work, but it's just the information that he brings out, is the idea that all truth can be known, and that when you know something, you don't want to, you're not being overly egotistical by just defending what you know, and like not letting someone commit worldview violence against you and tell you what you know. Like, there's no way you could know more than me because I don't know shit. And so people are just projecting their ignorance onto us. That's really what I think it is.
That's right. And you mentioned the Libertarian Party, and how I see this party is that actually like a group of slaves who want to go and work for the slave master on the other side of the road, who beats their slave only once a month, where they get beaten like once a week. So that's pretty much, it's still slavery on the other side, but all they want is less slavery. So less government, less, but it's still government, still slavery. So you're not that's not the solution.
No.
They're saying, oh, we cannot, it's too radical, it's too anarchy, it's too radical. We gotta fight the system within the system, like the Q movement saying, like with Trump's gonna annihilate all the world corruption at the deep state. Give him 30 days now, and when it's gonna end up the 30 days?
Dude, I don't even know.
Guys, I'm watching that because I really want to see what the Q is gonna come up with. Wait 30 days, wait 30 days, wait 30 days. It's exactly like the government. It's just, it's a lockdown, but it's just 30 days. And then at the end. So anyway, I really want to also touch on before we on the tarot readings, because I never explained my choice of tarot cards for my logo, and I really want to dig a little bit onto that with someone who knows a bit more than me on the subject. But basically, I choose, of course, the magician because of the throat chakra. The expression, voicing truth, and the self-expression of the will. The creative process of linking the intangible, the sky or mind, with the tangible, hurt or action, like as above so below, pointing up and down, and also the potential that he has with all the tools on the table. That's the microcosm, this side. Microcosm, and there's the macrocosm also. So the justice cards, of course, that Mark Passio put a lot also forward. God is law, Lex Rex. The crown chakra, of course, on top of everything. Divine oneness, natural law, pure consciousness, something that you cannot go around. It's there, it's eternal, it's immutable. So that's pretty much sitting on his throne. There's nothing, and that's why I chose tarot cards in my logo, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and for tarot cards it's even more. So you can talk for hours just on one card. So what's your feeling about this message I'm trying to convey?
Well, I think with the magician card, you nailed it right on the head. I mean, it is about having your head in the stars and your feet on the ground, and So the tools on the table, like you mentioned, there's the macrocosm and the microcosm. So the tools on the table are the 4 suits of the minor arcana, which is, representing of the microcosm. So it's, that's the thing, that like tarot is a very holistic art form, and so it'll show you'll learn stuff about the deck itself by looking at the magician card, because those are all the modes of life, all the tools you need to navigate through the different rites of passage, not only the different rites of passage, but like the things that happen in between those rites of passage. So like, like the star or the pentacles, that's dealing with work, like the work that you do, like your life's work. I mean, for people that do a more superficial tarot reading, they're going to talk to people about their job, their slave job or whatever. But, on this show, and for people that are watching this, we know that the life's work is the work, the great work, doing the research, getting it out there, coming to an accurate understanding of it, and then using your practical skills, like, video editing skills, or just, and then in your case, what you're saying is communicate, throat chakra communication skills. So yeah, I think I think that card does relate to this throat chakra. And what I was also going to say is I love the fact that you're actually making the connection between the chakra system and the cards, because like you can relate them to astrology signs, but it's more in keeping with Michael Tessarian's taroscopic system if we're looking at the cards as the inner zodiac. So it's all the inner, houses that and so the chakra is a great way to like show that it's an inner zodiac by like correlating them with the chakras. But you can correlate the cards with a lot of different things, like obviously, like, people use runes, and then there's the Kabbalistic tree, right, and stuff like that. So it's like there's just so many ways to represent archetypal knowledge. But like, so the 4 different tools that he has there, he has the cup, which is about being open to like emotional connections in life, and then the swords are like mental, so it's like your mental well-being, and also just like the logical side, like the information that you take in, that for your logical side of your brain and consciousness. And then the wands are like your libido, like the energy that you're putting into a situation. So, and it's also like sexual energy, and in the Reichian sense, like, so yeah, I think that, and the magician card, just he has them all out on the table because those, like I said, those are the tools, and so I think that your interpretation of that card is spot on. But it's definitely like it's a masculine card in a very positive way. It's not like, because you can think of masculinity like, oh yeah, the construction worker guy, moving heavy things, but then masculinity is also just, it's like a very methodical, person that like is just getting things done, but also in tune with their spirit. So it's balancing masculine and feminine energy. So yeah, I think you're spot on with that one.
That's right. And of course, the masculine energy, you said, we have the self-defense principle is masculine energy, while non-aggression is feminine energy. Doesn't mean that you should take one side, or you have to balance both. So it's very important to understand that principle of gender, which is in everything. There's gender in everything. 2 genders, like Dwayne Peters said.
Yeah.
Well, actually, and also these 2 cards, what I like is that they are also both on top of the Kabbalistic tree. They are both really on, so like the at the end of the tree, I guess, or at the top of the pyramid, or the top of the tree,
right,
the closest to the sun, and closest to illumination. So that's why also I picked these 2 cards, and I put the earth in the middle, and so I said I'm gonna appear on these 2. So there's a lot of meanings, and that's what fun also with tarot, and that's why I there's so many things to say that's why I picked these in my logo. But I'm glad that you brought it up.
Well, yeah, that was a great point too that I never even thought of, with the tree being closest to the sun. You know, obviously light being the thing that represents knowledge in the occult. So yeah, that was a great idea on that too.
Yeah. So last topic, we're so overcoming evil. You know, because you said in the first episode something that really struck me. First, like evil is a force that is meant to be defeated and overcome. And you know, I'm like, actually, if you in accordance with the principle of polarity, there are two things, two polarities of the same thing. So even though you overcome evil, I guess it's gonna come back one day, because you know you cannot remove it completely from this whole existence. So what's your view on this? You know, about defeating evil. How do you see it? How do you plan to do it? There's a lot
Yeah,
of people waiting for
about
answers.
that. See, okay, well, yeah, no, I mean,
Exposing
think,
it, I guess, is the first step.
well, yeah. What did you say just there?
Exposing it, I guess, is the first step, because
Yes.
most people are not even aware of what true evil is.
Well, yeah. I think the word evil is so antiquated now that I think a lot of people don't even think. They think, oh, that's just a religious term. That doesn't really mean anything. But I think, you know, how do you overcome evil? My whole theory, I guess you could say, if you want to get into theories instead of realism, but no, my theory on evil is that every single civilization in the universe that is, you know, has moved past type 1, type 2, or I don't quote me on that Kardashev scale yet, but you know, I think that there have been civilizations in the universe that have overcome evil for the most part in their culture because of the understanding of natural law. It's an ever-present force, like, and it kind of relates back to the other card that you have up there, is the justice card, you know. So the force of creation is a force that is trying to better understand itself, and so, you know, as it does that, it's going to recognize that there's evil within it. And so maybe you can't completely crush evil, but there's, you know, I think, you know, to not make the answer so roundabout, the understanding and awareness of natural law would be like on a in the aggregate, like the vast majority of people, you know, people know natural law as well as they know their name, you know, or as well as they know that the sky is blue. Like if we could get, and we're a long way off, but if we could get there, then the occurrence of evil is going to be less frequent. And then obviously, you know, you have the principle of freedom, which is as morality increases, freedom increases. So I think that you're going to have people committing natural law transgressions in any type of society, but it depends on how the society handles it. And, you know, there needs to be objective knowledge of truth, because, you know, today people will say, well, you know, there's also a thing called cultural relativism. So if my religion says it's okay to gang rape people, then it's perfectly fine, and you can't say as a Westerner that I'm wrong. But actually I can, because rape is always wrong under natural law. So it doesn't matter what your kooky religion says. If it condones violence against other sentient beings, it is wrong. And, you know, it's the sad thing about it is, like, again, when going back to the punk rock thing, is I almost thought that everyone already knew that and already understood that. You didn't need a Mark Pass. You didn't need a whole school of thought based on it. I thought it was common sense, but it's true, but it isn't common sense, because conventional wisdom is usually total bullshit, and it's kind of just meant to have people not rock the boat or question the way things are. And another thing I want to get into that I think may not eradicate evil completely, but definitely put a stop to the more, you know, extreme forms of it, would be getting rid of this, you know, social Darwinist bullshit, you know, ideology that so many, it causes so many people to not begin, like, because they just figure this is just, all these things you're talking about first of all, when you talk to certain people about a cabal or the dark occult and the things that they're doing, they might be in agreement with you that this is going on, or they might even be able to see, oh, I can see how that's happening. I can see how there's mind control. I can see that there's a group at the top manipulating everything. But then I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not even going to be ideologically opposed to that, because that's just the natural order of things. The strong dominate the weak, and there's a lot of people who think that's just the way it is, and that's the way it should be, and they love that it's that way because they consider themselves to be, even though they're weak on the inside, they can play off as the strong masculine person, because in our society, masculinity and being a man is all about, are you obedient, are you running your mouth, meaning are you speaking your truth, are you saying what you know to be right, or are you keeping your mouth shut like a good little boy? So that's what they really want you to do, and that's what they want you to think of as being masculine or tough or strong. So, and that's really, I think, evil is that ideology in and of itself. I mean, if you listen, I know you probably checked out Jay Parker's work, and one of the things that really got me on his work was when he talked about how his mother was crying like uncontrollably over the loss of some guy that was just some crazy dark occult pedophile creep, and his mother is bawling uncontrollably like this was the greatest person that ever lived. And people in society that you talk, like if you talk to people, especially if you go out into the dating world and you start seeing where the minds of, women are at, you'll see that this is their mindset at a very lower level. They are still, especially with all of the fawning over the police and military, and these guys are our heroes and we can't live without them. And you and I, as people who are serving truth, we're supposed to admit in the social according to a lot of women that I've talked to, it's almost like they have this idea that we're supposed to admit that we're less than them, and we're supposed to admit that they have some type of they're these special amazing heroes and we're just a bunch of complainers and stuff like that. And so it is, and I don't even see, I guess it could be because of the Piscean thing, the water sign thing. I don't even even as a little kid, I didn't know that there was such thing as social Darwinism and this type of ideology, but I could see that there was something making people evil. There was something hardening their ego and their consciousness and destroying their care, destroying their ability to understand what true love is and appreciate art. Like, people don't appreciate art, especially different unconventional types of art. I'm not talking about modern art of a toilet bowl that looks like shit. I'm just talking about any type of deep art. They'd rather have the toilet bowl than something grand and archetypal like the tarot. And so it's just, I think that evil would be definitely less of a threat, less of a problem. People were awake to true natural law and broke the social Darwinist paradigm. I mean, I think that even a lot of Christian people, even though that they're statist, minarchist, libertarian or whatever, they're still, they're half-assing it. They're not going all the way, which is a mistake. But at least, when I was a kid, I would have said that, people that are atheists, socialists, and into punk and stuff, they are closer to freedom and eradicating evil than the Christians. But now that I'm older, it's like, both sides are ridiculous. Both sides are misguided, but the Alex Joneses of the world and the Fritz Springmeyers of the world, I think are a little bit, I'd rather listen, I would rather support them than, I think they have a better understanding of what evil is, at least, and they don't like it. They're not identifying with that force on an egoic level. So yeah, I mean, I think I may have misspoke by saying it's a force that's meant to be overcome and eradicated, because it is true with its principle of polarity. You have to understand what something is not to understand what it is. So I think that every advanced civilization that exists in the universe has dealt with the forces of evil, be they, reptilians manipulating their DNA and archons or whatever. I think those archons and reptilians, they're like the losers of the universe. They keep going from different failed cosm to failed cosm, trying to insert this evil programming in there. But natural law always, at some level overrides it. And, but at this 3D physical realm, they do have control, and at a greater level, it is a lesson on what you should do to combat evil. You know, a lot of people are taking the opposite mode of like, oh well, you know, if these controllers are this powerful, there's really nothing we can do. You know, the force of evil is just too powerful to overcome. But you can't, even if it does defeat us as the human species as it exists right now, you know, it's not going to win in the end. Like, it's not meant to be that way. But people are supposed to, I think, you know, when you have people that are hurting children and women and you know, enslaving people. I mean, it goes beyond just, you know, the taking away of our civil liberties and rights and stuff like that. It's just the sheer fact that the people that are in control of these institutions that people trust are hurting children and they're hurting women, and it's, look what they're doing. Like, you can't, the MK Ultra and like even like the Black Ops programs where people memories are changed and erased, or, you know, people are have split personalities and they end up, you know, going on missions in their other personality, and it ends up being some type of false flag, or they're working for some type of Black Ops program in the secret space program. Like, that is like, those things are the reason why these things are still in the underground and in the occult, is because the establishment can't have people see how bad it really is, because once more and more people see how bad it is, they'll, maybe the strength of spirit will come back to them, and they'll remember, you know, that we're here to try to combat this force. So, you know, there's nothing that I hate that's makes, I mean, it motivates me to do the great work, but I wish it wasn't happening. Like, you know, when I see, you know, I mean, especially because I'm like a kind of a, I don't know, you want to call it romantic or whatever. Maybe I'm just like a womanizer at some level, but it's just it's just like, I feel bad for other people. I feel bad for animals and other people, but it's just when I see women being targeted, like when I see, you know, rape gangs in England, you know, from these Muslim extremists, when I see, you know, 40 cops on one girl who doesn't wear a mask, you know, I get in a very murderous, like, rage, like, you know, and I'm not going to go out and commit natural law transgressions against these people that are doing this. I mean, but they deserve something, you know, they deserve negative consequences for their actions. And so when I see women being abused and animals and children and things like that, that's a type of evil that we don't need to learn why that's bad. We can already understand why that's wrong. You know, we don't need them doing this as a lesson. You know, it's like, and I don't want to misspeak, but you know what I mean? It's like there's certain levels of, there's evil where it's just like, I stole your candy bar, you know, and that's evil technically because it's a natural law transgression. But then there's what they're doing, and that's a whole nother level. So, you know, I think it's the question of overcoming evil is like the same thing as overcoming government. It's like, you know, things that are the minarchism and stuff like that, it's a step in the right direction. So it's like, as long as we're taking the steps in the right direction, you know, I think that's a good thing. Obviously, I'd like to see it eradicated in this lifetime, but I think that getting rid of government is going to coincide with evil, you know, playing less of a role too, you know. So get rid of government, understand natural law, get rid of the social Darwinist bullshit, you know. That's what I think.
That's right. And actually, when you understand natural law, you understand that you have the power. The power of overcoming evil and defeating evil is within yourself. And if you defeat evil within yourself, you are able to output it into action. And if it happen in an individual level, it can happen on the aggregate. And when it happens in the aggregate, that's where evil is defeated, because all these government dark occultists, they cannot do anything without our consent, and that's what they are for. That's what they are targeting. And you mentioned the woman, and of course the women are crucial in this society because they are the one who choose the man that they will so that's eugenism, you know. And you're saying that because that's very important. And Mark Passo said it's more epidysgenic because it's not breeding for the with the right genes, but they are breeding us down by
Downbreed.
selecting these males like the police officers or as examples for these women, so that they are downbreeding, you know, the human species. And that's part of the also the whole mind control techniques, targeting the woman, the princess programming and everything. And on that, I would suggest Mark's videos, you know, called I think it's the feminist, the
Neo-feminism and the
neo.
satanic epi-eugenics agenda.
That's right, exactly. This one really blew my mind. You know, it's clear, loud and clear, that they are targeting the woman so that the man, they are targeting also testosterone, so that man they cannot, or they don't have the you know. And we see all these pictures of male dressed like you know. And also they are targeting also all this transgender agenda also is part of breeding out the real males, the real rebels, the real men with testosterone who are willing to defend their freedom,
Right.
because that's the goal, right? They want to, these men who are strong enough, physically strong enough to defend their freedom, and they are targeting the woman, not to care for these women, men like us who care for their freedom, who speak for their freedom, and they will favorize police officers who are actually house slaves, and they are
Yeah.
promoting violence, they are promoting coercion, all these natural law transgressions. So and man, it's all the time we have. We will have to do a part 2, because I'm stoked for your work also on your channel. I'm gonna put a link in the description below. I invite everyone to check your work and to subscribe on your YouTube channel so they get notified when you put a new video. Thank you for being for accepting the invitation, man.
For sure, man. That was definitely awesome, and it's my first interview ever, first person to ever interview me as a researcher. So congratulations to you on that. But I you know, the honor. I really appreciate you even asking. I didn't expect after I posted my first video that I would get someone to
I know,
want to talk. So I appreciate it so much, and thank you. And we will be in touch, and we'll go into the book that I'm doing. It's a work in progress. It's very hard to get through emotionally, but I'm getting through it now, and I'm glad I have the support. A lot more people are out there talking about natural law than 2-3 years ago. So let's keep it up, man.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Right.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ship. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption song.